Now, to be really clear, I'm going for that huge processed broadcast kind of a sound, which is exactly what the Manley VoxBox is great at doing. So I'm going to play you without the Manley VoxBox, and then I'll engage it. Listen to that just huge, powerful difference.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things.
In today's video, I'm going to walk you through exactly my process when setting the Manley VoxBox Universal Audio plugin. Hey, my name is Lenny B. I am a voiceover audio engineer, and I help my clients make a better connection with their audience. And in some situations, that means if you record your voice onto a microphone, it could be for podcasting, it could be for doing narration, competing as a voiceover artist or a voiceover actor. It could be just making videos for yourself, or maybe you've got a small business and you're creating content on social media or YouTube or somewhere, and you want to make that strong connection with potential customers. That is what I do. I help you make a stronger connection with your audience by making your voice sound better, and that could be by adjusting your room, changing your mic position, mic technique, processing plugins, which is what we're going to talk about today. I am going to walk you through what I've done to process a voice. Actually, we're going to be talking more specifically about the sweetening process. So I've got a raw recording, and then I've already added a balancing EQ to really get a nice balanced sound. And this particular recording we're going to talk about today was, it's a voiceover artist who is recording on a Sennheiser MKH416. And I'm going to focus on sweetening and processing this voice recording with the Manley VoxBox. So if you're going to process a voiceover with a Manley VoxBox, I say you go big, because that big, huge, bold, just larger than life sound is one of the things that this processor does well. And so I'm going to kind of push for that. So we have balanced the audio with an EQ. So we've got a nice balanced sound. It's really well recorded on an MKH416, and it sounds big to begin with. And so I want to kind of push this thing a little bit and really get a huge sound. So the first thing I'm going to look at is the gain. How much gain are we going to give it? I'm going to keep it kind of low and then use the input to get us a good level here. So let's play this back. And we're going to, actually, I should probably play just without the Manley VoxBox first. So let's hear that balanced EQ that we're going to sweeten with the VoxBox. Okay, let's hear what it sounds like before even turning this thing on.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things. But my agency likes our demos to be submitted between -6 and -3. -1 and -3. So,
and you can see that, you know, we've got a very similar level going in and out, just less than 1 decibel off before the EQ, and then this is after the EQ. And, you know, we're less than a decibel with the true peak max, and an average loudness less than 1 dB. Okay, now let's turn on the Manley VoxBox, and I'm going to slowly bring in the preamp to make sure we're still at a similar level before and after the processing.
A lot of animation, and I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things.
Let's see if we can make this a little bigger for you. Okay, you know, so the meter here can read and show us a lot of different things. It could show us the GR's gain reduction, show us the line in level, the preamp output level, and which is good because that's kind of, the preamp out is going to give us kind of an idea of how much we're pushing and getting some saturation from the preamp.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of
I could turn down the output and turn up the gain.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things. I do a lot of animation. And I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole
So we're getting in the red, pushing it a little bit, and I can hear that saturation. And again, you can use the Manley VoxBox or other processors in a bunch of different ways, and it's art, right? These are tools to kind of sculpt the audio. So instead of thinking of it as, there's guidelines, but instead of thinking of it as a right and wrong way, it's like an artist painting, right? This is one way that I'm going to sculpt the audio and use the Manley VoxBox to give a huge sound. But, we can also do it a different way and get a different type of sound. But, I mean, just right out the gate here, right out of the gate, because of what we know that this thing can do, I want to see if we can create just some over-the-top, huge, like, boom kind of sound for this voiceover. So we are taking advantage of some of that preamp saturation.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things.
So we're looking at the preamp out. We're getting into the red, definitely getting some of that saturation, but everything else is bypassed. The de-esser, the EQ is bypassed, the transformer sound is bypassed, and there's no compression happening. So this is all preamp, and let's listen to before and after so you can hear the difference.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things. But my agency likes our demos to be submitted between -6 and -3.
To me, the preamp with that extra saturation is actually giving it some thickness, but it's also compressing it a little bit. The dynamics have been reduced. So we can look at the gain reduction, which we're going to use with this meter. We can look at the gain reduction when we add some compression. We could see the line in, we could see the preamp out, we can see what the EQ out level is reading, and the de-esser. So those are the 5 different readouts that this meter can show us. So now, since we're going to work on the compressor, let's switch it to gain reduction so it can show us. To me, this is where the Manley VoxBox shines, is just to nail that compressor. We're going to hit it pretty hard, getting maybe 7 to 10 dB of reduction. But that's really, to me, that's the Manley VoxBox sound on a voiceover. Let's see what that sounds like. I'm going to set the attack to all the way slow and the release all the way fast. We are going to engage the compressor, which is a 3-to-1 ratio. We've got the meter showing us the gain reduction, and let's dial in some healthy gain reduction on this compressor.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things. But my agency...
Okay, so you can hear it got much quieter, and so I'm going to replenish that loudness and that volume with the output and get us back to where we were before.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial. I do a lot of animation. I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of animation.
You could really hear some of that big, wide, heavy boom, and that's really what, that's what this thing shines at doing. You could do other stuff. We haven't even hit the EQ yet. Let's check that out. Looking at the EQ, I'm going to dial in some low frequencies, probably around 50, and we're going to raise those up a bit. I'm going to keep it on bypass, and we're going to cycle it on and off. I'm going to dip some of the 200s a little bit, and I'm going to raise up the 8K, that air, 8 and up on the high peak, and let's see what that sounds like. So it's disengaged to start with, and then I'll put it in and see what the difference is like.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things. But I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things. But my agency...
So I like the air that this is adding. The EQ on the Manley VoxBox is based on the Pultec EQ kind of style. You can boost the low end and reduce the low end at the same time to give it that Pultec kind of curve, which is just a huge, wide, big, thick sound, which is, again, what we're using this thing for. And I think it's kind of the signature sound. But let's keep going and listen to the difference. The EQ is pretty subtle. I'm going to put this maybe up to 70. Let's see what that sounds like. First bypass.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of...
There we go. That's bringing a little more of that warmth in. I'm going to engage the transformer on top of it. And this really gives a little more saturation or that type of a sound.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of of commercial.
So I'm going to turn on the de-esser. I know that the 6K is probably the best, and I'm going to switch the meter now. We're going to look at DS. So it's going to show us how much gain reduction around 6K the de-esser is doing as I increase the threshold. And I think what I wanted to achieve with the de-esser is I don't want the de-esser to be working when there's no sibilant SH or S sounds. I only want it to start pushing things down when there is an S or an SH type of sound. And really what we're doing is we're counteracting that high peak that we've increased with the EQ. So raising up that high end, but then just making sure that the sibilance is under control when it happens. So let's look at the gain reduction meter for the de-esser, which is what it's set as we raise the threshold. De-esser is engaged.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things. But my agency likes our demos to be...
Here, let's listen without it, and I'll engage it halfway through. Focus your ears on that sibilance and those S's especially.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things. But my agency likes our demos to be...
I feel like it really softens those S's especially, which is what I like to hear. Okay, so let's gain stage it again. Let's look. I think we're pretty close. I may be able to bump up the output just a little bit.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things. But my agency...
I like where we've gone so far. It sounds pretty big, but I'm going to do just a little more fine-tuning. I want to go even harder. So I'm going to close the attack a little bit, make it medium, slow, maybe even medium. We're going to look at the gain reduction and just see. I want to push it around 7 to 10.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of...
Okay, that sounds pretty good. Maybe, let me see what that 50 sounds like again. I'm kind of vacillating between 50 and 70.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things. But my agency likes our demos to be submitted between -6 and -3. I do a lot of animation.
And if I look to try to gain stage it, I could probably get just a little bit more gain out of it before we peak over 6.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things. But my agency likes our demos to be...
All right, I'm digging it. I can already hear it just sounds huge. And really, we're going over the top, but that's what the Manley VoxBox is kind of about. If you want to just get that pow, just smack you in the face, that big, huge broadcast sound, it's one of the things this does well. So I want to play for you the before and after. Just it's really, you could really hear the difference, and you could hear exactly what the VoxBox is doing when you disengage it with all the settings now and all of the processing, de-esser, the transformer, the EQ, and the compressor all together with the gain and the saturation as well. I'll play the balance EQ'd audio and then with the VoxBox so you can hear the difference. But this type of processing is what I do for my clients, and I do something that's pretty cool. I think it is, and I do this for anyone. I will give you a free demo of what your voice can sound like with my processing, custom processing, on your mic, recorded or captured in your room, with your interface and the mic position and how you do things. If you want to hear what it sounds like with my processing, I will send you a free demo. All you need to do is go to my website. It's lennyb.com. At the top of the page, click on the red button that says Submit Your Voice, and then you're going to get some instructions on what to do. It's really easy. Doesn't take much time at all. Step 1, you have to prepare your audio because I need it in a particular way. I want it to be between 30 seconds and 2 minutes in length. There's just some guidelines here. I need need it in a WAV file format. Step 2, you fill out a form, and it's, again, really pretty quick and easy. It's just your contact information so I can get the demo to you. And then I ask a little bit about the equipment that you're using and your sound treatment and what you're working with in your room. It gives me a better idea of what we're up against. And then step 3, then you're going to receive an email from me with a link to where you upload your audio. It's really just a Dropbox link, but it goes right to my desktop. You just drag and drop your audio file submission and it comes right to me. And then after I do my custom processing on your voice, you're going to get another email from me where you can click on a link and listen to the original file right next to the process file, and you can hear what it sounds like with my custom processing. Don't feel like, oh, maybe my audio is not good enough, because the more issues you have, or the more you feel like something is lacking, the more I can draw your attention to what we can fix, make some suggestions. Hey, maybe your room needs to adjust this, or we need to put some sound treatment here, or your mic position would be better this way. I'll ask you some questions. I want to help you improve. The whole reason for what I do here and how I help my clients is to help you make a stronger connection with the people listening to the audio that you're recording. So don't be shy. Just hit my website, lennyb.com, and send me your voice, and I'll get you that free demo. I'll disengage the Manley VoxBox, and then halfway through here, I'll engage it so you can hear the difference and see what this beast is adding to the audio. First, the Manley disengaged.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things. But my agency likes our demos to be submitted between -6 and -3. -1 and -3. So anytime I normalize that, yeah. Anyways, you might hear how it's very bassy.
Just sounds huge, and the average loudness between the two files is not that different.
I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things. But my agency likes our demo. I do a lot of animation, and I do a lot of commercial and radio, like a whole bunch of different things. But my agency...
Yeah, there's a lot there. It's a big difference, and you really get power and volume. And again, this is one of the things that you can do. Can you use this with half of the compression? Absolutely. You could pull back on all of these things and just use it very transparently. But I thought this would be a cool opportunity to really push it to the limit so you can hear what it does. And I'm going to do more of these type of videos, and maybe I'll do one that's more on the transparent side. But I wanted you to hear and walk through with me the steps I take and the things I'm listening for when I'm setting the controls of the Manley VoxBox to get that over-the-top, powerful sound. Now, if you've got some questions about the Manley VoxBox or the controls, or about how I kind of approach things or whatever, by all means, leave me your questions in the comments. I'm happy to answer you about this process or any processing or improving your voice or submitting your audio so you can get that free demo. I love helping and sharing my gift. I love and am totally passionate about processing audio and improving that communication between you and the people receiving or digesting your audio and your message. I love helping other people get better at it and share what I've learned in my experiences. My name is Lenny B. Thank you so much for watching. Let's make your voice sound better. Now you can see how I process this same voice recording using the Ultra Channel plugin by Eventide. You could watch that video here. Then I sweetened this same voiceover recording with the Schoeps Omni Channel by Waves. You could watch that video here. And you could see how I balanced the initial raw recording with the parametric EQ to get a nice clean canvas before sweetening. You could watch that video here.